Good morning. Today we're going to participate in lab number 13, dealing with saturated solutions. I'd like you to take a look at my notebook. This is what you're going to want to make your notebook look like, so you may need to pause the video and then go ahead and fill out your science notebook. Notice we're for this particular class on page 36, so it should be the next page in your notebook. So the first substance we're going to take a look at right here, this is a combination of water and copper sulfate. So if you look at the bottom, you can see that some of the copper sulfate is beginning to pool down there at the bottom. I put a scoop into the water and then I mixed it up and I continued adding scoops until it no longer mixed. And so we now have what we call a saturated solution. Again, my solute was the copper sulfate. My solvent was the water. Go ahead and write down 3 observations. Excellent. For today's lab, we're going to start by filling up our test tube about halfway with regular tap water. Then we're going to put a stopper on there and place it onto our scale. I'm making sure to zero it out and then put it on here to find out what is our mass. And I get 24.6 grams. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my NaCl table salt and I'm going to add 1 scoop of sodium chloride table salt to my test tube. Then I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to shake it. I'm going to look at it and see, did the salt all dissolve? Did my solute bind to my solvent? And there's nothing left. So I'm going to, remove the cap. And I'm going to add a second scoop. And I'm going to repeat the process. Again, mixing it. Looking at the bottom to see, are there particles that did not dissolve? Nope, everything dissolved. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to add scoop number 3. And here we go again. What do you think? Do you think it will all dissolve this time? As we're thinking about a saturated solution, I want you to think about when it rains. Sometimes it rains and the ground has no problem absorbing all of that water. But sometimes when we get too much water, it begins to pool up and we get puddles and flooding. We would say the ground is saturated. It can no longer hold anymore. So again, I'm looking at my substance here. And it looks to me like all of that salt dissolved. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add scoop number 4. Trying not to spill it all over the place. My water is just room temperature. It is neither extra warm or extra cold. And again, I'm looking to see if all of my salt dissolves. I currently have some that's beginning to pool on the bottom when I let it sit, but I want to just double check. Is it dissolved or is it? I think that scoop 4 pretty much dissolved. So we're going to go ahead and try one more scoop here, but I'm thinking, because it took a lot longer for that scoop to dissolve in. I'm thinking we may be getting very close to our saturated solution. There is a significant amount of salt. No, that doesn't work either. That is visible on the bottom of our test tube. See if I can find a way for you to see that. Can you see down here where it looks a little darker? That's the salt that did not dissolve. So after a couple of times here, looks like 4 scoops it dissolved, but as soon as I added that 5th scoop, it just would not dissolve. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place this back onto my scale, and now I get 27.7. Now make sure when you get those masses that those, remember, need to be documented here. So I've listed what was it when it was just the water in my test tube, and now that I have the sodium chloride solution. Now, of course, go ahead and do that subtraction problem, right? You're going to take the larger number, subtract the smaller number, and you should get the mathematical difference. Now, you should also have this worksheet here. And this worksheet here you can download if you haven't already. You have 3 questions to answer. Question 1, how many scoops of sodium chloride dissolved into the water? Number 2, how did you know that no more would dissolve? And 3, now you have to come up with a definition. What's a good definition for saturated solution? Make sure that each of those questions is answered in a complete sentence. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shake that one more time just to make sure that it was 5 scoops. And then I'm going to place that over here in my test tube rack. And I'm going to move on to my last substance. This one here is called sodium nitrate. So again, I'm going to open that up here. I've got my test tube. I'm going to fill my test tube halfway with water. So this is kind of an eyeball, but about halfway full. So I'm going to fill it. Woo, got a little crazy there. Let me just dump. Actually, that's pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to cap it, and I'm going to find its mass. So without any chemicals in there, that water with the test tube and the stopper, 24.1 grams. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove that stopper, and I'm going to go through the exact same process I went through last time. So 1 scoop at a time. I don't want my scoop to be overflowing. I'm going to go ahead and I add in that sodium nitrate, and I mix it real well. And boy, that's already difficult to get to all dissolve. There we go. All dissolved on that first scoop. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our second scoop. So scoop number 2. Shake it up. And it looks like it's dissolving, but then when I set it down, I get some chunks on the bottom. So I think that's pretty dissolved. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add a 3rd scoop. Some of this has gotten a little clumpy. And mixing it. There's our 3rd scoop. Oh, that's really not wanting to mix. Our solution is getting close to being saturated for sure. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my next scoop. How many scoops have I added? You should be keeping track. And mixing again. Again, this is our sodium nitrate. And remember, my water is just room temperature. And we're just about there. Looks like I could still add oh, yep, now it's all gone. Okay, gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add my next scoop. Again, I don't want it to be overflowing, but I do want it to be a good full scoop. It's funny, it'll look like it's all gone and then I'll find it there and then I'll think that it's just about gone. Doesn't seem to be. Looks like we might get one more scoop in there. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna try one more scoop. Remember, you're keeping track of the numbers. How many scoops do we get in here? Make sure I get it all in. And here we go. Mixing. Give it a second. See if it wants to settle. And I don't know if you can see that, but do you see the bottom there? I've got some granules. That little bit of white that you're seeing right in there, that is our sodium nitrate that just did not want to dissolve. So we officially have a saturated solution. So now you're going to return, oops, and we need to find out our mass again. So now I got 27.3 on that. And I just want to double check. I'm going to look at my salt solution. Oh yeah, there's definitely good salt layer sitting on the bottom there that just did not want to mix up. So did a great job with that one. So now, of course, you're going to return to your workbook page where you'll find the difference. And then, of course, you've got your worksheet 13. Go ahead and finish answering question 4 and 5. Question 4, how many scoops of sodium nitrate dissolved into the water? And 5, what difference did you notice between the two? And when we're referring to the two, we're going to look at these two right here. Right there. What do you observe? Differences. All right. And then, of course, just a reminder, your lab book, this information is yours to hang on to. But this worksheet right here, make sure you get that all filled out. Good quality, complete sentences, name, class, date, and get that turned in because this is a graded lab. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.